all right. Oh man, I'm excited to just jump into this one more time. And today, or this morning, I'm coming in with a scaling a small business playbook. And this is something that I've been thinking about a lot in the last, say, like few days, few weeks, few months leading to this. This is actually something that was so crazy in my mind, and a few bits and pieces of this thing. I think that I've thought about a lot, and I'm so excited that I've been able even just to come in and try and solve some of these things and try and come with some of these solutions. So let's jump right into it and we'll see. So this is the playbook that I do intend to follow. It's a 15-step process that I intend to follow. Just for full disclosure, I was working a lot with ChatGPT to help me refine a lot of these areas, and I'm using knowledge that I've built from the books that I've been reading, like the E-Myth, like Traction, and to also answer a lot of the questions that I've been having, and to create kind of like my own playbook. And this is what I think I'm going to be using as my playbook moving on. So let's just jump into it. And of course I'll be doing a lot of talking and kind of refining where I'm at with this, and this is not going to be very long. So like I said, it's only a 15-step process of what it means. So the number one step that I'm putting into scaling is to define your vision and goals. Right. So action steps is going to be: you conduct a strategic planning session to define the long-term vision, and number two, you develop smart goals that align with the overall vision and the mission. So it is you, the entrepreneur, you, the individual who is starting the thing. You want to take time out and kind of create like this strategic roadmap for where you want to go long term. Now let me talk a little bit about why I think this is important. Previously, I had never thought that this was very important. In fact, I was in the school of thought that as an entrepreneurs, man, you just start and then kind of like you build your aeroplane while you're already flying, and just you hope that you won't crash. You're going to somehow make sure this plane flies. But over time, I've started seeing the need for an entrepreneur who is getting into any area to have good planning going on. I mean, it's good to act quickly, but also important to think about where you're going and to kind of have a strategic long-term vision of where you're trying to go. Recently, about 2 weeks ago, I was just having lunch with my parents, and they were talking about something like a business thing that they wanted to get into a few years back. And then my mama was telling me how when they talked with my father about starting this thing, she went on and bought all this kind of feeds. This was like a chicken business. She went on and bought like sacks of omena fish, which is I don't know how, Nile perch fish, dried Nile perch fish, which they're going to convert into like chicken feed, and then they would kind of like feed the chicken later on. So she bought sacks and sacks of this kind of feed. And then, do you know, they never actually went ahead and did the business. It took them so many years later for them to jump into the chicken thing, because there were so many other things that still had their attention. There's so many other priorities that they still needed to do. But because so for example, my mother, she's the type of person to just start things and figure out along the way. She bought the feed, and it all went to waste. Now, in our conversation, she said something. She said that is why planning or starting something with a plan is very important. And she said, what I learned from that process is that never start anything without good planning. Never just jump into things without good planning. And then so you see, I had also been privately going through this season of kind of trying to uncover what is the benefit of planning, because oftentimes as an entrepreneur, planning feels very ephemeral. It feels very mundane. It feels very fluffy and wishy-washy. And even I had a conversation with a friend of mine who's an entrepreneur that I actually value a lot of his opinions, and he told me that he hates this idea of doing proposals. He hates these ideas of planning and sitting on the computer, because he feels like it's fake work, that when you sit down on the laptop or whatever to come up with a proposal, when you're done with the proposal, it feels like you have done the work. but you've just come up with an idea, you haven't actually done the work. So because planning is very ephemeral, a lot of and business is very action, right? Like there's no ephemeralness, there's no just like wishy-washiness to business is actually very action oriented. So if you want to do anything, you're actually taking action in the real world. So this idea of just planning is very wishy-washy, and I could understand why even for me in the past this idea of planning seemed very very fake. But now this idea of planning is just coming into to mean a lot of things to me. Now the second thing that I want to say about this planning before I move on is I was doing a leadership course, John Maxwell leadership course, and he asked a very profound question that changed my life and changed how I thought about things. He said that when you come up with goals that you can achieve, that's actually a small goal, because you see, as like if you can achieve something, that is a small goal. But if you come up with a grand vision, a grand goal that will take others, it will take more money, it will take skills that you don't have right now, now that's a big goal, because that big goal will stretch you. It will need you to now start looking into other areas, to looking into other people who can you bring into the team to help you achieve these dreams. And this thing, when I read it and I went on even to look more about what he has written about it, I was sharing with my wife. I told my wife, wow, this is so huge for me. It's such a mind-opening thing for me, because it seems to me that I have been making goals and plans that I can achieve, right? It's very much in my domain of expertise. It's very much in things that I can do. Like, it would take a lot of effort, but it's things that I can do. But then John Maxwell starts asking you, but what if you started setting up goals that even you cannot achieve? Right now, that's a big goal, brother. That's a big goal. And we were talking with my wife, was like, so for me, when you're talking about building, say, like a studio with like an agency, a marketing agency, for me it seems like a big vision. But really, is it a big vision? Because I know I can do it. It's really within kind of my scope of expertise. But what if I need to put together resources to build a hospital here in Kenya, or to build like some community home in a remote village here in Kenya? That is a big goal that I have no capacity to do it by myself. I would need to lean into partners. I would need to lean into other things that are beyond my scope of expertise or even skills. And so this idea of vision and goals, I started thinking about it very, very differently. That, oh wow, you can actually have the capacity to build big vision and to build big goals, okay? And you can do it. You can actually be able to do it. And so for me, I'm embedding this into my process, into my playbook. That number one thing that you want when you're getting into like a business environment, when you're getting into kind of starting a new thing or a small business, that you want to understand the long-term vision. Where do you want to go? How big do you want this thing to become? And actually taking this process seriously, and refusing to allow that emotion of just, this is a fluffy thing that I don't want to do, so let me just like do the actual things that I could do. But take time to do it. Take time to create smart goals. This is what I want to achieve, and this is where we want to go, and this is what I think I need to have into your whole vision thing and a goal thing. I would understand, because I've been doing this for a while. I would understand why this feels strange. I would totally understand why this feels weird, but I think this is among the most important things that you want to do if you want to scale your business. So for my playbook, number one is you want to define your vision and your goals. Number two, create standard operating procedures, SOPs. All right, standard operating procedures. Oh, let's come into the difficult work, the work that as people who are creative, you don't want to sit down to do it. So number one is document detailed SOPs covering all aspects of daily operations. And then number two, regularly update SOPs to reflect changes in processes or industry standards. Now, SOPs and is a subject matter that has like it. Every small business owner knows about this idea of SOPs, and people think differently about it. but now I think it should be a gospel playbook. If you are trying to scale a small business, you want to create a standard operating procedures. Now, from actually now the things that have embedded these thoughts in my head are ideas from the E-Myth by I think Michael Garber, and what is that the book? So there's Built to Sell, which also does this, but there's this book. Now I forget the book, but it's also about Work the System by Sam Carpenter, which also talks about how to be able to create SOPs. Now, the vision or the learnings that I have developed from even this particular book is that everything is a system, and you want to see everything as a system, and therefore in your system you want to create SOPs that help you manage the system. So you have this kind of system mindset that shows you the different gears and levers that you need to be pulling to make the system work well. Now, if a system is going to work well, then you're going to have like a document that you have detailed these SOPs. So the second part in scaling is you want to create SOPs covering all aspects of daily operations. And in fact, Sam Carpenter says start with the 80-20 rule. Start with the 20 most important ones, and then as time goes by you can get the other 80 in. But let's look at the important aspects of daily operations. Maybe how do you get the checks in, how do you fulfill whatever you're supposed to fulfill, like the fulfillment and the getting paid part. It's very, very important. I think that's crucial. So those are the first things you want to start getting, and then maybe you could get into the other things, customer stuff, employee stuff. You can get into the how to check into the business stuff later on. But isn't it interesting that we want to start by tweaking the how we come into the business, like what time do you guys actually come in as an SOP, and start tweaking that thing that is not important to the core part of the business, especially if you have employees and people who are doing it. So now you want to document detailed standard operating procedures of all aspects of daily operations. And then the next one, you want to regularly update SOPs to reflect changes in process of the industry standard. Now, you want to come up with a cadence, kind of like a 3-month cadence or like monthly cadence, where you deep dive into your system and you look at your operating procedures. Are they good? Could you update them? Could you make them better? Are you moving at the pace of the way the industry is going? And I don't really have a lot to say about this, but I now do believe it to be gospel. I do believe it to be gospel because if you do not create this kind of SOPs, you're going to be left to your own whims. And it's actually very difficult to do this. I think it's difficult to do this as an entrepreneur because you're always trying to do other things. And then you also want to do this. It feels very difficult. But this is the thing that you ought to do. Either you hire for it or you create time in your day to do this. But this is my step 2 in the playbook. Now, step 3 is to delegate responsibilities. So 1, you identify key roles and responsibilities within the business. Then the next action step, you delegate tasks based on employee strengths, skills, and areas of development. Now already we have, now this is the crazy part that I wanted to talk about small business. Before I talk about delegate responsibilities, let me now highlight a few of the emotions and difficult areas that I've had to kind of overcome to get into this area. Small business is very solopreneur, it's very sole proprietor kind of vibes, right? So it's like you open a retail shop and you're the one who's running the shop. I mean, it's your shop. You open a butchery, I mean, it's your butchery. You open your tailor shop, I mean, it's your tailor shop. You're the tailor, and what has happened is that you have given yourself work as the tailor or as the shopkeeper or as the butcher guy, right? So oftentimes when it comes to this idea of delegate responsibilities, you don't necessarily see how you can hand it over. It's difficult because 1, maybe those people who you're bringing in do not have the same finesse like you, and so it's hard. So now for me, I have had to accept that if I want to grow anything, I need to figure out this delegate responsibilities part. It is actually very important that I accept this idea that I need to find ways to embed more people within the business. Now, of course, many entrepreneurs don't want this. I've talked to so many people. A lot of people don't want to lose control. A lot of people don't want to deal with the overhead of just like dealing with bad actors and bad people and people who are going to come into your business to steal from you. And because we know that we live in kind of a society that some people will just come in and steal from you. I mean, we've all had those stories that, oh, hey, I stole from that Muindi. Oh, I taught that Muindi a lesson. So Muindi is like an Asian person in Kenya. They're actually, more of them are entrepreneurs. Or you'd hear these stories of people say that they stole from their boss. And so because of that, I could see why many bosses don't want to deal with that headache. Oh, like this person is stealing from me, this person is not making sales in my shop, and so I have to okay. So there's all this kind of problem that come with delegating responsibilities. But you have to accept that if you want to get scale, you want to delegate these responsibilities. And I think this should be like number 4, but I understand why it's number 3, because now you want to open your mind that I can't do everything in this business if I want it to scale. If I want to have a job, if I'm looking for a job that I want to be busy all day, then maybe I can keep doing this thing for a little while. Okay, if like, man, this is really what I want to do, I can just come into the shop and be my shopkeeper for the rest of the day. I mean, it's cool. I get to talk to people. I get to sell. I get to see the money. But if you want to grow, you want to identify key roles and responsibilities, and then you want to delegate on those areas. And so now we'll go to number 4, number 5, and number 6, and then we'll come back to number 3, which is like a shift in thinking when thinking about scaling a small business. And of course, these ideas I'm getting from books like The E-Myth. I'm getting books from books like Traction, and especially Traction is the one that made me now to just have a problem in my head about now how do I make this happen, because it seems very ephemeral again. So number 4 is to develop training programs. Now, this has to be maybe one of the new things that now I have started doing, maybe now just in the last 2 months, that in the last year. If you look at this YouTube video, I've been kind of building a leadership training program, but accepting this as a responsibility of you, the entrepreneur, has been something I just started doing recently, but it's an idea that I've had, especially this year 2023 moving onwards, and it is something I believe now to be gospel. I believe this to be core truth in scaling a small business. So developing training programs. So number 1 is you design comprehensive training programs for employees, and number 2, you provide ongoing training sessions to enhance skills and knowledge. The thing that has unlocked even me thinking that a business can be scaled, a shop can be scaled into multiple locations, into multiple areas, is understanding that you can train, you can create. So for example, we come back to that idea of creating a vision. So you create like this, where we want to go, and and you have these goals, and this is who we are. This is kind of like the values that we have. This is the colors that we do. Like this system is what my shop is called, and then now creating programs, training programs of this is how work is going to be done in this business. And now you train for it. You don't just say it, you train for it. You train for how things are going to be done. You retrain, you have a training layer, you have training videos, you create kind of like a private YouTube page if you are still scrappy like me, or you create like an intranet, you buy an intranet software where now you like upload this kind of videos into the intranet where people can jump in and learn and start to grow. But you have to develop these training programs, so that you see now when you're delegating responsibilities, you are delegating responsibilities to people, and then you offer them the training of how you are supposed to do this kind of work. So you telling, for example, like even just customer stuff, this is how we talk to our customers, this is how we do customer support. You delegate the customer support responsibility to an employee whose like strength and skills are for this, and then you train for that. And then you provide ongoing training sessions to enhance their skills. Like, are they growing in this area of skill? And even you as an individual, are you growing in this area of skill? You see, I have gotten so much value as an individual over the last few years of just diving deep into training programs and looking at different training manuals and reading different books that but telling entrepreneurs how to grow a business from level 1 to like level 10, all of them have a very strong training vibe, right? Because as a willing student, I'm jumping into these programs just trying to learn. I'm trying to learn. And therefore, I believe that if I have been gaining value by learning, I think another employee would get a lot of value in learning how things are done in your business, in your organization. Now you can start to see that as we keep going down these layers of kind of the things that we need to do, my mind and your mind, I hopefully has started breaking out of this kind of small business owner thing and jumping into like an organizational builder thing. And there's something here that I have not captured, but let me talk about it. In the developed training programs, you want also to create, let's say, like an office, right? Or if it's not an office, like I said, you want to create like a virtual office or a virtual place where data, communication, videos, PDFs are going to live, and they're going to be living and breathing, such that your employees and people who come into your team can access it. So it could be like a Dropbox or a Google Drive or a private YouTube page, like I said, or an actual office that you have all these things in place that people can come and access and then grow. This is hard, I suppose, if you're coming from it from a very solopreneur, a very kind of sole business owner perspective. Because man, how are you going to be able to create training programs while you're stuck in your shop, while you're stuck in your butchery? I mean, how are you going to build all this kind of comprehensive training programs when you're stuck doing the tailoring? It's man, and then where are these people going to access these things? Are you going to send them to a weekly or a retreat where you teach them? How are you going to access this? So one of the things is you want to build up a home. You want to build a place. You want to build an office, virtual or not, where these training programs are going to live. And this is connected with Playbook. Action step number 5 is you want to implement technology. Technology is such an important layer of skill that I think in an earlier life I never even understood how important technology is in scale. I'm lucky to also to be very interested in technology, and I'm also lucky to mess with a lot of technology, a lot of apps, a lot of software as a service kind of applications. And so I see how good technology can transform manual labor and allow you to do things more efficiently. And so number 5 is action steps is number 1, you can integrate a point of sale system for efficient sales tracking. So a point of sale system, you track your sales, it is connected to your inventory. So if you are doing retail, you know exactly what you have, you know what is what is currently in store, you know what you're missing, you know what is almost about to go bad, you know what you need to, like say, like do a sell and get rid of in your business so that you don't end up throwing it away. Then number 2 is consider adopting a CRM system to manage customer relationship and preferences. And so a CRM helps you to track all the customers you can have in a business and then understand their preferences so that you can serve them better. And this is the database that is going to keep growing with your business. This database is a very kind of important DNA that you have in your business. In fact, I would even say that this is like one of the bedrocks of your business, because if you have a database that allows you to manage customer relationships and preferences, man, you're going to manage all of it moving onwards. And so you want to consider the CRM. And then number 3 is you want to explore the use of computers and automation to smoothen business processes. Now remember, we said in number 3 that you want to delegate these responsibilities, and number 2 you want to create SOPs. But now with technology, you can smoothen out some of these business processes with automation. When a customer pays, they can receive the receipt on their email immediately. You don't have to have someone who's going to follow up with all these kind of things. It can be much easier when you implement technology. So for me, playbook number 5 is that technology is such an important layer in making this kind of thing work, and we need to always in all the businesses that are small, that we're trying to scale, make sure that we implement technology. Now another thing I wanted to say about technology is you want to provide people, so your employees, and this is another way of thinking about it, you want to provide the people that you've delegated responsibilities to, you want to provide them with the right resources and tools to do their job effectively. So resources could be like training, right? You teach them what you need to do, how to do it. And then tools is like computers, tools is like phones, tools is like stationery, papers, notebooks, pens, like maybe software, how do you call, like subscriptions to different maybe softwares, and maybe different tools that you use, you get them those subscriptions, understand? So for example, if you have an internal communication thing, so like you can give them a G Suite and you pay for that, right? So you pay for their Google Suite so that they can be able to communicate, or you pay for their Slack, for instance. So those are the tools that you want to give them after you've given them resources. So this is another thing that is going to tax you as an entrepreneur who is trying to scale a small team. This is another expense that you're adding on them, is that instead of just giving you a salary, I'm also spending to make sure this space runs with the right training and the right resources, but I'm also making sure that I spend money to make sure you guys have the right tools for the job. So you have the right computers, you have maybe an internet connection, the right subscriptions, the right softwares that you need to make your work easier, and you just need to kind of implement this. And I know it's difficult. Again, I said every small business person who comes from this kind of side, this kind of maker, creator, worker side, is very, because now why would you just even spend more money? But if you don't spend that money to make sure people have the right tools and resources, again, you cannot scale. Now this is number 6. Number 6 is very important to me, and number 6 is something that I just recently added, and I have been going through a season of forcing me to accept number 6 as an important part of building scale in my playbook. Is build a leadership layer. I remember when I read Traction 2 months ago, and Traction is a book by Gino Wickman that kind of gives you their playbook of how to scale small business. And for them, I think this is like the first layer that they teach you, that you need to so they start with the goals one, and then they go into this like leadership layer. And I remember having a very difficult time accepting a leadership layer as an important aspect in scaling. Let me explain to you why. Now imagine the evolution that you have to go through in your mind to accept that now other people can come in and other leaders can come into a small business. It almost seems impossible, right? It almost so let's say you are a shopkeeper, you're a shop owner. And then now you're supposed to kind of like build a a leadership layer where you have like a marketing executive, you have like a sales executive, you have kind of like maybe someone like an office, like an administrative assistant who's also, of course, there are leaders. And so that means you're going to pay them to stay in the business, but you're also going to have to give them a lot of autonomy, and you're going to have to grant them autonomy to make a lot of decisions that in the past you'd have needed to do it yourself. So this leadership layer, I can understand how it can be difficult for a small business owner to get into, because why do I need three? Why do I need three people as a leadership layer or a leadership team to help me move quickly into the area of growth? And even sometimes you can say, my shop is very small. I don't even think I have the money to pay people so that they can help me grow this thing. But you see, it's kind of like a chicken and egg problem. Is when you make money, you want to invest. You want to see it as an investment into this system, into this business that you're building. That when you put money into a leadership layer, it will pay dividends over time, because this leadership will create this engine that will grow. So number one, identify and nurture potential leaders within the existing staff. And then number two, implement a leadership training and mentorship program. So man, you want to see the past people that you're with, you want to give them promotion, so you're going to offer them more money. And then after you offer them more money, you want to tell them that they're leaders, and then you want to train them. I can see why this man, if you're just a business owner building this, and then the question comes that I need to offer training and mentorship to my leaders. How am I going to do it, man? I don't necessarily consider myself a leadership trainer, and I could totally see if you're a business owner who hasn't done the effort to embed leadership training into their own life. Where do you even start in training your leaders? So it's like, man, I'll just hire people who are smart, and I hope they'll bring whatever they bring into the table, and I hope the business will grow. But no, if you know what I know, you want to implement a leadership training and mentorship program. If you can't, you can buy. That's what we were talking about the other day when so I don't have the book right here with me, but I was doing a John Maxwell book, and at the back of the John Maxwell book, they had this kind of leadership program that they could sell to organizations. So as an organization, you can buy a leadership program that you go and grow and train with the people that you're in. Now that I've lived a little, for example, the Traction book that I read, you can buy subscriptions for all your leaders, and you can get them the books, and you can work through this together, and you can work through the Traction company together. And so you can kind of like get into that leadership program that another company that does training has already provided for your team, and you can grow together. I feel very powerful about this leadership layer, and for me, this is something new that I just recently added, and something that I will forever hold key into scaling small business. Now, so we are at the halfway, just about to finish. So the rest of the things, I'll just go through them very, very quickly. But from number 1 to number 6 is a very important thing, or a very important kind of mindset shift that I've started coming into. This is how you scale a small business, any small business, man. And I'm telling you, any small business, this is a playbook that can help you scale it. Now let's add other things, and I think you should find a way to move from step 1 to step 6 in a very, very quick progress, especially if you already have something that the market wants. Let's say you're not a startup who are trying to find product market fit. Let's say you are actually a small business that does something within like the local community, and you want to scale it. I think you want to go from number 1 to number 6 very, very quickly. Okay, number 7. So establish key performance indicators. So define KPIs related to sales, customer satisfaction, and operational efficiency. Then number 2, regularly track and analyze performance against these KPIs. So in Traction, they call it a scorecard, that you want to have a scorecard, a weekly scorecard, a monthly scorecard, a quarterly scorecard, an annual scorecard that you are going to keep tracking. So this is another thing that as a small business owner, you might not be able to establish and track KPIs, because it's difficult, man. I'm telling you, we are the person who is doing the thing, and then you're the person who's tracking the KPIs. So we can start to see the benefit of hiring and the benefit of having a bigger team, because now this bigger team is going to help you to now get into this nitty gritty of the things that you want to do. So a scorecard, make sure you have a scorecard, because if you don't have a scorecard, you don't know how you performed. And yeah. Number 8, customer relationship management. So implement a CRM to organize and analyze customer data, and then develop personal strategies to enhance customer loyalty. We already talked about that. So now we're moving into just things that now you must have, but they're not bedrocks, right? Marketing and branding, I think, is a bedrock too. So let's talk about that. And even in traction, marketing and branding was a very big bedrock, where they wanted you, now that you have this leadership layer, you want to really create like a positioning of this is who we are, this is who we serve, and this is how we look like, and this is, so you create that that thing. So create and maintain a consistent brand image. Fight for your brand image. You're the one who knows where we're going, so define it and then fight for it. Remind them who you are. I've seen so many branding efforts fail because the communication layer doesn't exist. The communication layer to just make it keep ringing, it doesn't exist. So people go back to kind of like the old brand image that they used to have. And then implement a mix of online or offline marketing strategies to attract and retain customers. Number 10, financial management. This is key. I think this is also among the bedrocks. Maybe it should have been like number 8, right? Establish a robust financial record keeping system, and then, so let's just start with starting. And then implement budgeting and cash flow management practices. Again, things that small business owners either don't know, don't care, or don't want to handle is a robust financial record keeping system, man. You want to just make sure you have a system for this, okay? You want to make sure you have receipts, you make sure you want to have invoices, make sure you want to have them either scanned or kept well in like a good record keeping arrangement, so that you know if your bookkeeper is doing this, then you can get audited. You can pass this stuff to an auditor who will tell you how you're doing, like at the end of the quarter or at the end of the year. And then number 2, you can implement budgeting and cash flow management practices. How do you budget the year before, and then how do you manage cash flow? Because you want to have cash flow to run the business, but at the same time you also want to, like to have money, profit. You want to ensure you have profit, so you're not overusing this kind of cash in frivolous ways. So cash flow management practices, you want to define that. You want to upfront define that, and especially if you have a leadership team that you have talked about how you're going to to manage the finances, they can keep you in check. Maybe you are a person who makes the final decision, especially when it comes to cash, and you should be the final person who makes decision to come assigning to cash. Maybe you want everything, like this entrepreneur was telling me, a friend of mine, that every kind of expense the business needs to do that's 5,000 shillings and below, they don't need to call him. They just do it. Tell me that we did it. Tell me that the so and so needed to do this, and we had to do this, and this is the records for it, and I'll be like, cool. So he gave like his office people autonomy to make any kind of financial decision under 5k, right? And I think that is solid. I think that's solid to have. Yeah, so that's, and so continuous improvement. So we're coming into now finishing. You want to foster a culture that encourages employees to provide feedback so that you can iterate and grow. Then again, regularly review processes and seek opportunities to improve. Regularly just review these things and find ways you can improve. Number 12, community engagement. You can see now we're going really quickly. So we want to actively participate in local events, and also sponsor community initiatives. This now you're kind of now growing as a business. And then collaborate with nearby businesses to strengthen community ties. Find which businesses are involved in the community. Get involved in the community. Get your people involved in the community. Put yourself out there. Participate in events. Participate in youth activities and stuff. Sponsor a few things. Give money to like event organizers and stuff like that, into charity, into things that will put your name out there as a business in the community that is actually adding value. Now, adaptability, so stay informed about the industry trends through continuous market research, and then be open to adapting the business model based on changing circumstances. I wanted to talk about this. I thought it was very important, especially now in the age of AI and in the age of just rapid technological change and rapid geopolitical kind of change that is happening in the business. I think you want to be open to adapting the business model based on changing circumstances. When the market shifts, shift with the market. When technology disrupts the industry, move with the market, and try to always get informed on what is coming in your industry, on what is coming in adjacent industries. I had this thought the other day when we talked with my parents, and also with an entrepreneur friend of mine, about how my parents had like a cyber cafe business 13 years ago, and those businesses were wiped out when like GSM came, and 3G and 4G, and now fiber optic, and people now have Wi-Fi in their homes. But back in the day, that business was so huge, and it was such a cash generating business because people needed to communicate, people needed to do emails. But then technology changed the game. Especially, is it possible that the first ISPs, the internet service providers, could have kept innovating and seeing where the industry is going and changing with the industry? It's very tough, but I guess you want to be adaptable so that when the industry changes, you can also be able to change with it, and so that you drop those old businesses and you get into a business. I mean, I learned that Toshiba, even this computer that I'm having right now is a Toshiba computer. It started, I don't know, like a bridge making business or something, like a bridge engineering business back in the 1800s or something. It was just some business, but over time they kept growing. They kept seeing new industries that they can get into, and they've kept growing until they died, I guess. So adaptability is important. And then, so networking, attend local business associations or networking groups, then foster relationships with other businesses for mutual support and collaboration, then finally measure and adjust. So just regularly review and the financial reports, KPIs and customer feedbacks, and then be proactive in adjusting strategies based on performance and market changes. This also, in Traction, they talk about this. They talk about how a leadership should be able to predict the future. And you can't predict without KPIs. You can't predict without financial reports. You want to see where are we and where are we going, and how does the industry look like. So if you're going to measure and adjust, like Traction talks about, is you're going to have this scorecard that helps you make decisions of the future. And I think if you do these things, you're going to be able to scale your small business. So these are my 15 areas of how to scale a small business. And I am so excited about this. The playbook that if personally I'm going to be implementing from now moving on until maybe, I don't know, I don't think there's any new information. I think every other new information kind of just adds and gives more language and to whatever I've already put here as my playbook. Cool. See you next time, man.